Hi, this is Matt with the Intergalactic Herald. Welcome to my Star Atlas Week in Review podcast. This is podcast number 132. Any articles or videos mentioned can be found on my website at intergalacticherald.com. Just look for Weekly Recap Newsletter 180. So just a quick summary of things going on over today. Past week in Star Atlas predominantly was the Star Atlas Town Hall, though on Thursday there was also a Builder Hour. And that was it. But of course, with the town hall, that's about all you need. And then I'll wrap up with talking about my thoughts on the state of Star Atlas and kind of my journey playing Star Atlas. But before I get to that, just want to mention a couple things related to the Star Atlas ecosystem that I'm working on. Of course, my main one is my website, intergalacticherald.com. It's a great resource website. So it's got obviously this podcast, it's got some beginner's guides, it's got directories for Star Atlas builders and creators and guilds and things like that. Do have my recaps both in the form of the weekly newsletter, but also audio summary recaps of Star Atlas events this past week. And then my latest feature is a Star Atlas Discord news feed where you can sign up for your email and get directly sent to your email the announcements the community team puts in the Discord announcement channel. Additionally, I am building a Star Atlas merch store at intergalacticgear.com. It's open for business. Low product selection, I'll admit, just some mugs and a few wall arts, but it's an ongoing thing trying to put more products in there. Do have a merch survey, so I'd love to get any feedback you have on merch you'd be interested in purchasing. And then one of my long-term goals is to create a Star Atlas community, calling it a non-guild, but a place for Star Atlas gamers who don't want to join guilds to hang out and chat on a different kind of community platform than we're used to. And be able to hang out. So check that out at intergalacticcoalition.com. As I mentioned, this past week was another Star Atlas Town Hall. So this was actually part 3 of what was called Star Atlas Summer. So we had the first Town Hall, which was predominantly information about UE5. Second Town Hall was HoloSim and the new Zinc Solana blockchain announcement. And then we have this now Town Hall part 3. This one was, I guess, more informational and broader than the last two. So the first thing, they did give some more information on HoloSim, predominantly talking kind of the roadmap on the next season. So again, we're still just in season 1, chapter 1, which may have multiple chapters, but they are starting to give some information about season 2. Oh, I should mention, if you want to listen to the town hall in its entirety, Star Atlas TV's YouTube channel has the recording, which again, I always appreciate because that's how I catch up on things. And sometime this weekend, a little behind schedule, I'll get my AI audio summary of the town hall out, so you can also check that out. So actually, by the time you get this podcast, that should have already been released, but just for timing purposes. Anyway, so some more information about HoloSim. Then they talked about some updates to Sage. It was mentioned that kind of the economy and just the gameplay is getting a quote-unquote a little stagnant. They are introducing this new concept of a phantom starbase in order to help produce more LP. So that was mentioned. Then a couple of the programmers, the developers came on and talked about a system they're calling Starframe, which again, not 100% sure I understand completely, but they did actually Star Atlas did put out a Medium article explaining more in depth. You can get a link to that if you go to my website and look for the news recap newsletter number 180. One sentence summary is it's a framework for Solana to build more complex programs. Sorry, that was about all I could get out of it. They made also at this town hall some additional announcements on UE5. They're adding Ledger support, which is great. And then this is probably I shouldn't say biggest news, but the news that directly seemed to gameplay was the introduction of a new resource called Ink. Beyond the Horizon put out a video on this, which I have a link to also, which you can go into. So a few weeks back, there was discussions within the economic forum about a concept called Black Goo. Apparently Black Goo has been renamed Ink. You could say Ink is a form of a Black Goo. Okay, cool. But I'm speculating it's much more on the naming convention for the Zinc blockchain and going with the Ink thing, but who knows? But it's anyways a new resource. But it is the new resource that now allows you to take gameplay and experience earned in the UE5 shooter and race modes to directly be able to transfer through an airdrop into a resource that you have in your crypto wallet, which now has ability to be deposited into these phantom star bases to gain LP, which I think then can be redeemed for Atlas. Now, I don't play a lot of I have a specific thing I play in Sage, so I'm a little vague on the star bases and LP loyalty points and redemptions and all that. And also haven't started playing the UE5 shooter, so again, this will probably apply to other people. But the most important takeaway from this announcement is there is now a direct integration between actions in the UE5 game and actions in the Sage economy game. There's a announcement of double experience points. Again, I'm not sure how experience points rank to Ink, but again, all together. And then the last announcement at the town hall, and I can't remember if it took up half or maybe definitely a third, was a new information about a Sage C4 editor. I'm calling it a simulator because anyways, it's a direct access to the same development tool that the Star Atlas team is using to build out C4. Definitely, that's a video watch. I admit I was listening to it and didn't realize how much of it was a video demo showing how things work, so I may have to go back to that just to watch it to see how things were done. But it is, again, the first... I'll say first access directly to a development tool that is in production right now. Anyway, so yeah, that was the summary of the town hall. Again, full video recording at starlstv.com. AFIA produced a kind of in real-time report that came out right after the meeting, links to that. And again, by the time you hear this, hopefully I'll have my AI summary out that you can look at too. So a lot of ways to catch up on that. And then the last thing on Thursday was the monthly Builders Hour, which was, again, a community event focused on Star Atlas builders. This one was actually slightly different than the past ones, that the majority was taken up by the two programmers who talked about Starframe and were actually doing some live coding in it. So if you're into the programming and you understand the Solana programs and Rust and Anchor and other things that are way over my head, it was a great way to see them program in real time. And unfortunately, you don't get the interactive part of asking questions. But again, it was really interesting look behind the scenes on what programmers actually do. So anyway, so yeah, that was pretty much the update of what happened this last week in Star Atlas. So I'll move on to my thoughts on the state of Star Atlas. I raid to this Phantom Starbase. Sorry, I'm not really sure I understand it. And again, that's just because I'm not involved in those kind of gameplays. But yeah, so I think there's a lot more. Actually, wait, I do more. Sorry, I wrote this when I listened to it yesterday, but there was some mentions, and we can share what's in the Foundation Room. There was some posts in the Foundation Room. I know a long one from Chris on economics. And because I don't play, it kind of went over my head. But my kind of what little I could glean from skimming it is some of these things are necessary to keep some of the parts of the economy going, because upgrading Starbases is maxed out, and apparently this Phantom Starbase will never level up, so it can things can be redeemed there. But there was also talk about things need to be changed and things aren't working right. So it sounds like we're in one of those periods. Again, this is me. I don't think this was actually stated. The economy needs some rebalancing. And so this is one method to do that. So in the sense that stuff's happening, that's good. I've said it before. I try to listen to the economy forums, and sometimes they register and sometimes I'm glad there's an economy, but I just want to go play my game. So anyways, definitely Ink, I think, is incredibly cool. Glad it's there. They have been telegraphing that the Black Goo codename was coming. And I think the binding of the two games is a really great thing, because I think it finally incentivizes people who, beyond just want to play the shooter or whatever, there's a purpose to play. There's a reason to re-engage, and Ink is your result or the thing you get for playing, and people like incentivizing. Yes, it's incentivizing play. So I think all that's really great. Ledger support was actually something I was happy to hear, because I couldn't figure out what people were doing to get their character or crew into UE5. So this kind of does it. But there was an announcement on one of the Discord things, which again, if you subscribe to my Star Atlas Discord newsfeed email loser, you would have actually got an email for it that had some gotchas. So I need to look into that, but it was settings you have to do on your Ledger and which version to run. But again, just more of informational. Yeah, so check that out if you want to try your Ledger support, and then hopefully it's intuitive what you do with trying to get your crew in or something like that. But overall, I have to admit, with the UE5 stuff and the HoloSim and some stuff about HoloSim was mentioned in Town Hall and definitely on the Discord, is definitely feeling that both HoloSim and UE5 are truly beta products. Not that the team has ever stated otherwise, but I don't know. I guess I was expecting at this point a little more polish and a little more stability. And again, there was a whole talk about changing some of the stuff in HoloSim RPC versus other stuff. And again, happy to hear all the technical stuff. I guess I would prefer some non-technical translations sometimes, but that's okay. Just like Starframe, it's a good thing, but I don't understand. But this was, I guess, if there was any sort of observations as an independent observer, now I admit I was listening to the town hall in different chunks at different parts of the day just to try to keep up so I'd be done before Friday night. So I was listening at different times. And like I said, the whole thing on the Sage editor, I didn't even realize was a video. But when that Sage editor stuff started, and again, I was only listening on audio, after the Starframe and a little more on HoloSim and not understanding the Phantom Starbase, I admit my attention was starting to, okay, cool, another tool great, you're showing what you do to develop the game. And again, I don't take anything away from the presentation. Danny, the co-founder, you could actually tell his enthusiasm was coming out, his knowledge was coming out, his, I'm going to say, superhuman ability to design this entire metaverse ecosystem, Cybernation, whatever we're calling it. He's the right guy in the right position, that's for sure. But that wasn't translating. And again, I wasn't watching the video, so this could have just all been on my part bad. But I think the part that I didn't realize, because they were saving it to the end, was this tool is now accessible to us. So I was thinking you're showing me behind the scenes, which is interesting, but I didn't realize you're also allowing us access to it. Again, I'm not sure if it's read-only access, or they talked a little bit, I think, at the Builder Hour next, that like whatever you do doesn't get saved, which is cool, and GitHub, and again, programmer talk that, again, I just don't have that background. But once I realized, one, they were releasing it to us, I realized in hindsight that this editor is basically all the details, at least with the caveat that they say, hey, it's a work in progress, so things can change from time to time. But I always was curious, hey, what buildings are we going to get? And I don't think they'd published a list of materials. And again, I want to take a look at this now because, of course, anybody can look at it. And there's a URL. Oh, and if you want that URL, please go to my website for this weekly recap number 180, and the link's there. That all that's discoverable now. It's all there. There was combat simulators, there was the claim stakes simulators, the crafting hab simulators. Again, everything they're using to, I don't know if I'm saying this right, balance the gameplay, because on the town hall they mentioned you'd have, 30 or 40 air bikes trying to go combat with a Titan, and 0.03% of the time they win, which should never happen. You should be slaughtered in a true combat situation, I think, right? But anyways, that's what it is. It's a simulator, so they can figure out some of these things, and then that informs the game logic. So that kind of totally changed my perception as, hey, this was a really tech-heavy one, which it was, but going forward, which is C4. And again, I speculated last week that I thought this would be the perfect time to have a C4 demo. And of course, at first I thought we didn't get it. We didn't learn anything. And then it dawned on me, we didn't learn anything because it wasn't forced fed to us. It was like, hey, go discover it all for yourself. And then cool. Yeah, definitely want to explore more, again, because some of the things about claim stakes have been the thing personally most interested going forward in the fact of how C4 will change the gameplay of Sage. So that's kind of my thoughts on the town hall. But maybe stepping back for a second, reflecting on how has this Star Atlas Summer been. If you've been following on my podcast, you know this, and of course you've been following on in Star Atlas Summer, you know this, but it was pretty much a month plus, starting with the community week, one town hall, 2 weeks later, town hall number 2, and then 2 weeks later, town hall number 3. And looking back at them as a single entity, some of the highlights that stand out to me are really that the UE5 is great in the sense that we now have persistent servers. And that had been the thing missing for a while. Also, the fact that progression exists. And then by the end of Star Atlas Summer, adding the ink as the actual glue that now puts that thing together. So I think as far as a release of a next concept, spot on, nailed it. Persistent servers, progression, and now this unique resource that only can be found within UE5. On the other hand, it's starting to sound like that the people that are really using it are people who are experts. But we can also say, to be honest, Sage has always been about the whales and the experts too. Again, and that may be just, that's where we're at right now. And I think I may have mentioned many podcasts back, I've heard lots of games have match playing or skill play based things where you can go into the showroom or into the entry point and get into a game with a whole bunch of other newbies. But we'll see. And again, it's early, so you wouldn't expect that. That's another whole concept. But probably the biggest one that, if there is some where we are at now in the development of UE5, is bluntly, where are spaceships? Again, shooter mode. And I know they focused on the shooter mode and the esports tournaments and things like this. This has been great. They told us they were de-emphasizing the racing mode, so I get that. But again, when are our spaceships going to get some love? We haven't heard about new ships in the showroom for a long time. Again, everything has been focused on the shooter, and that makes sense. And it feels, if nothing else, that they are trying to reach certain milestones and then they can pivot to back to other things. So again, you want to reach something, and persistent servers with progression, those feel like things within the UE5 client that you work on and just maintain and then get back to other things. So it'll be interesting to see where we go. And of course, I'm just a fan. I want my spaceships. And I actually was just starting, before recording this, an interview Michael Wagner gave with a YouTube content creator. And it was mentioned Gallia, the mode inside the UE5, is more about the spaceships and exploration and things like that. So I think, again, and I'll admit, total personal bias, but hey, this is what I'm here for Star Atlas. You may be here for some other part of it, and that's perfectly fine. That's the thing I'm interested in: spaceships, exploration, going to planets, things like that. And it was mentioned that they're starting to flesh out that initial kind of single-player, campaign-driven thing that is more of that thing. So again, but just looking for some spaceship love. HoloSim, and again, Michael Wagner was starting to talk about that in this video. I'm halfway through, or partially through, which will again be on next week's review. That HoloSim to me is an awesome concept and is showing the great potential for a great experience to come into the Star Atlas metaverse, play something, don't have to worry about crypto, don't have to put any money into it, and have fun. And lots of, during the beta, people who were on like the Atlas Brew were like, this is just cool. And a lot of people I hear on Twitter are liking it. Unfortunately, the rollout has been a lot of bugs, and they mentioned at the town hall where they're, again, changing over to RPCs from something, again, technical. I don't understand that. If it gets it better, more reliable, awesome. So again, maybe a real rocky rollout, but again, we'll see where it is in the next few weeks. The other big thing about Star Atlas Summer is Zinc, the new proposed blockchain to run Star Atlas and other potential things that would address both performance issues and cost of Solana fees. Want more details for sure, but again, that's to be expected. It was an announcement of this thing. There's projections on dates, website, and I think the next thing was a white paper is coming. Want more details, but this, I think, is the biggest, it's the biggest non-gaming takeaway to me from the town hall. And again, a lot of other things are related to gaming, but again, Zinc feels like one of those things. I know a couple of weeks ago I mentioned, yeah, at some point, let's stop playing or building more technology, let's build something on top of it. But as it's been explained, this has never been something they just pivoted to. They've always been working on this as far as their development platform, and then parts of it sound like it's what's running HoloSim. And yeah, and the idea that Zinc will be earned through airdrops by playing Star Atlas products is an incredible incentive to get lots of people in. Question is whether or not they stay, but that's not the point. The point is to develop an audience, get the word out, give people a reason to spend their time. Again, it's very well thought out. It feels good. It's, yeah, just ready for more details. But again, this is one that we already have enough, and we even have sort of a roadmap. Again, a lot of the technical details were interesting. They feel tangential to the game, and I know that's not true. They're fundamental to the game, but again, I don't know. And again, this is being way too external critiquing. Traditionally, Town Hall has been about announcements. A lot of this feels like it could have been handled in an Atlas Brew or like the Conform does. Hey, have a monthly technology update or development update, or I don't know, whatever. But Starframe could be an awesome thing. It's just not me. Again, nothing wrong with putting those in the town halls. I don't know. I wonder, again, this is totally easy to do in hindsight, but if the Zinc had been the last announcement and the middle one was all the technical stuff, even the Sage 4, maybe that could have built a little more. But again, that's really nitpicking. They're all great. And now that it's over, it doesn't really matter the order of operations. So anyways, yeah, so to just summarize, I actually have to admit, and this actually came to me the next day after writing a lot of this stuff down, that I think a lot of what I just said was maybe a little too, not negative, but just a little too like deflating. And again, this is, I think, the problem with town halls and announcements of announcements, that we built up this expectation that everything has to be a home run. And not to use too many baseball analogies, but if you can get on base, a single, you're highly likely to score a run. And on base percentages matter in the end. So does consistent hitting, not home runs. That if we look at what we've seen up until definitely the start of summer, but the whole year, the development of UE5 constantly this whole year has been great, steady progress. But there was no home run, though progression is close. No, it's not. It's, again, steady progress. Holosim, steady progress. And again, all these things are going to have little hiccups from time to time. Zinc, of course, that's the home run. That's something totally out of the blue, and it fits perfectly into things. The technical stuff, all necessary, all completely required to move the game forward. So anyways, where this all kind of trying to come into a wrap up here is, it dawned on me, this is how you build in public. So pick any other video game you've ever heard of, or even a software package, you never see the making of it. And so again, seeing the tool used to make C4, you would never see that, let alone have access to it. But we get access to it. If you're in the community now, in 2 years, nobody will care. But what did you do for me today? You gave me access. I'm not interested. That's fine. But some people will. And that's awesome. That this is basically how you build in public. Also, when you build in public and you release fast, things won't work. And we get upset and post, hey, when did this, that? Yeah, but again, next week. So you could spend all this time making it perfect and release. Those are two different strategies. They have their pros and cons, but you can pick either strategy. That's a valid business decision. So yeah, nothing's really going to be ever fully polished. It's never going to be ready for prime time, but that's the strategy the StarAtlas team is taking. And they're building in public, and they're sharing all the behind the scenes stuff, from tools to frameworks to whatever. That's what we get. You can say pro or con, but that's what we're getting. So that's fair. Personally, I still want to play something, and I wish it was done, and I wish it was fun, but it's coming, and it's still a ways out. And I think at this point, that's what we have to accept, and bluntly complain about. It's not going to change anything. This is how the team's going to run their development. And look at the positives. We get access to tools. We get lots of insight. If you have access to the Foundation room, you can post a question. Everybody can read all the answers. That's the way they're doing it. Pro or con, doesn't really matter. Yeah, I'm feeling, and I think I've said this on podcasts years ago, I shouldn't say I'm a pragmatic. That's not my lifestyle. Never mind. Related to StarAtlas, I think we have to be very pragmatic. They're building in public. They're releasing as soon as it's functional, and they're constantly iterating and moving forward. That's StarAtlas. If that's not what you're interested in, then this isn't the project for you. But if that is interesting to you, you potentially see some upside on yourself, you're looking forward to playing a fun game related to sci-fi and space and economy and supply chains and shooters and everything else that's on the multiple season roadmap, this could be a great experience for you. Unfortunately, it could go away tomorrow, but this is what we got. So again, not a high, not a low, kind of just par for the course. Let's keep moving forward. So anyways, that's my 2 cents. Take it or leave it. That's what I think. So anyways, wrapping this up real quick on kind of my journey playing StarAtlas. So again, I'm predominantly focused on the Sage gameplay right now, working toward putting a bunch of resources together to hopefully craft a Mamba X, which may not exist anymore, but now I'm just crafting because those resources should though I apparently could probably go pick this apart inside the Sage editor, Sage C4 editor, and see where all these resources might turn into buildings or different things within the crafting apps, but buildings within the claim stakes. Yes, I'm still just mining Luminite. I'd actually, just to be honest, I was too busy to even want to care about calibrating my big fleet to figure out if it should be mining more hydrogen or moving something or whatever. So I was just like, I'm just going to stop, because mining is one concept and I can figure out how to keep my little miner guy going with food and fuel, because it doesn't need any ammo. So it's been chugging along, mining and making progress on the goal to mine up the Luminite. Oh, and another thing, I guess, not in full transparency, but just all I'm thinking, the reason I stopped the big fleet was it continues to use Sol to do all those things. And of course, there's a lot more transactions with the bigger fleet than this single ship. And I'm wondering if better to wait till the Zinc profiles go live, and so that our experiences are directly relating to that airdrop. So I'll admit I'm kind of holding off, trying to game what the next thing might be. Again, they had talked about September. I was hoping for a little more announcements, but again, not shocked that maybe they didn't have a follow-up Zinc thing at the final town hall. So that was another kind of thing slowing down, because again, I'm just using up Solana with the idea that if I'm going to use it, at least maybe I'm gaining toward the Zinc airdrop, if I'm understanding all that correctly. And so more information would be there. So yeah, so that's pretty much what I'm doing there. And that kind of wraps it up. The Star Atlas summer is in the past. It's Labor Day weekend for us here in the United States, which is the traditional end of summer. So it all seems to fall into place. One of my kids is back in school. Yeah, it's actually gray today, not sunny, but I'm sure it had nothing to do with the time of the year, just a random occurrence. So anyways, yeah, thanks for listening to all of that. Again, anybody interested to come on the podcast and be a guest, totally open to people to talk about the week in review. Love to chat with any Star Atlas creators or builders, talk about their projects. And again, if any team member wants to come on and chat about beginner topics in Star Atlas, totally happy to be a forum for that. Again, please check out my website, Intergalactic Herald, great resource for a bunch of things on Star Atlas, from beginner's guides, directories of content creators and tools and things like that, my recaps, and my Star Atlas Discord newsfeed you can sign up for. Also, if you want to get a Star Atlas mug, please go to intergalacticgear.com, and while you're there, fill out my merch survey. And again, if you're a Star Atlas gamer looking for a different experience in joining a guild, trying to get together a community, a non-guild guild, at intergalacticcoalition.com, where we can hang out and chat and work on a community platform that's a little more non-real-time, so less chat, more conversations and email alerts. Please go to Intergalactic Coalition for that. Other than that, thanks very much for listening. That was the week in review of Star Atlas. This is Matt with the Intergalactic Herald. Have a great week ahead.